call this meeting to order. It's 7:03, and pursuant to Governor Baker's COVID-related orders, we're meeting tonight via remote participation, and a copy of the Grafton Public Meeting Remote Participation Guidelines are available on the town website for reference. So we'll do a roll call real quick. Matt?
I am here.
Sue?
Here.
Amy?
Here.
Greg?
Here.
Colleen? Here. I know this is not on our agenda, but I just wanted to let everybody know that Carl Moisen did resign, and we will be announcing that next week at the select board meeting and hopefully start the 2-week public notice portion of this.
Who resigned?
Carl?
He was at the first meeting. Okay, I remember.
Yep. So that is that. And again, officially, huge big thank you to Greg for all of the hard work he did this weekend. That was really awesome. And the first thing on our agenda is to go over the capital package. So who would like to start? Okay, did everyone have a chance to look at the capital package?
Just FYI,
Yes.
I only sent the spreadsheet to you and Matt, so Soup hasn't seen it yet, and Jeremy wouldn't have seen it yet either. So.
There it is. Got it. Okay, so maybe we'll start by doing a share screen on that. Greg, do you want to pull it up and go over it?
I have too much stuff open right now
Okay.
for that.
All right, let me see if I can find it.
I'm taking minutes, and I got the package, and I got Zoom on a different computer. So
Okay. I have it open. Oh, can you do it, Matt?
Yeah, I just need to find it.
Okay. I just don't know how to share my internet from here. I bet I could do it.
You can do it.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah. What do you guys see? Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the bottom of it. All right, now you guys are in my way. Hold on. Okay, perfect. Let's see if I can make it a little smaller for us. How does that work for everybody? Is that okay?
Yeah.
You get, like, the gist of it? Cool.
Oh, could you make it just a tiny larger?
Yep. Maybe. Is that good?
Yep, that's better.
Okay.
So the most obvious thing here is that everything from the package is in here. Anything that doesn't have a cost of project next to it on this sheet is something that is for a future fiscal year. So it doesn't affect that. If you go to the score entry tables tab, there are columns for total cost in other fiscal years, and as well as an other funding column. The total cost FY22 is automatically copied to the compiled results. The other two are not.
Wait,
so one change here is that
Can you say that last statement one more time?
the columns G and H are not copied to the compiled results.
I see.
The extra funding would have to be copied manually for those that are in this fiscal year. At one point, someone had said that if someone didn't score a particular project, then it wouldn't affect the average, and that actually was not true, but it is now. So only scores greater than 0 affect the average and the score. And the other thing is we now each have a tab on the bottom, so we can fill in all of our scoring on a single sheet, and it automatically gets updated into the compiled results sheet. So no copying and pasting around afterwards.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's just awesome.
Can I ask one question? So when we do our scoring, are we doing, trying to figure out how to phrase this. My understanding was that we were doing the scoring based on the next fiscal year. how do we say a project that's slated for 2024 is more important than a project for 2022? Am I missing something?
I put everything in there just so we'd have it kind of all together. It may make sense to just score the ones that are listed as 2022 as the fiscal year. That's part of the reason that I copied the fiscal year column in there. So if it doesn't have a total cost there, otherwise it's just it was helpful to make sure that I got all the projects and that we had the data available for doing the 5-year plan later.
So would it be worth it? Would it be, I mean, it would be easier for me personally. Maybe I can just do this on my scoring sheet, but to sort by fiscal year, so all the 2022 stuff rises to the top.
Yeah, we might have to do that on the score entry page so that the mapping doesn't get messed up back into the score entry page. So I will look at that before we start scoring.
Yeah, because I can tell you right now, I was trying to count, and I already skipped over a couple that said 23 instead of 22, and I'd hate to make that mistake and not score something.
Yeah.
that
So
I'm supposed
basically,
to.
if it has a dollar amount in your sheet, then you can score it.
It's 22.
Is one
Yeah.
way to.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
just not
once we're sure everything is in here, we can resort
Okay.
this. Because
Cool.
right now it's in the same order as the packet.
Right. Makes sense.
So, Greg, can you send that out to me?
Yep, I'll send it to you and
Thank
to
you.
Jeremy. Do we want to, is this still in my personal space? We should move it to the CIPC folder first.
It is. Yep.
Okay, so we'll move it there, and once everything's ready, we can send it out to start scoring.
Awesome. Did you send that to my, you did. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I can move it over there. Cool.
Let's,
Um,
timeline wise, when does Carter want this?
December 1st.
December 1st. And has he given you an amount of money?
Not exactly, but I did confirm today that it's about $360,000 in the Municipal Capital Stabilization Fund. I don't know if we can use all of that or not. I don't know if they try to keep a little on hand in case, God forbid a cruiser got in an accident, needed to be replaced right away type of thing. I don't know.
Well, the whole stabilization can be used for any of that, but so he's only giving us 360,000 from the capital stabilization?
Nope, that's not, I just had it confirmed that was what's in the account. I don't know what he's giving us.
so 360 is in the stabilization count now?
Yes.
I see. All right. I would, assumption wise, I think the 360 is available, the 800 is going to be available. And then, typically we do, lately it's been around 900. I would say that it seems like we've used a fair amount of free cash, so maybe back that down to 500 or something like that. And that's probably close to being what our number is going to be.
Would we
I agree
get
with that.
Chapter 90 money? You know,
Chapter 90 money. Yep. I don't know what that is yet.
okay.
Yeah, because we have 210,000 just in the leases. So
Right.
Yep.
starting from 360 doesn't give us much without the other sources.
And I don't
Right.
remember how long are those leases?
The one is this year, one is 24, and one is 25.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're almost done.
So how would you guys want to do this as far as inviting people in to ask them questions? Did you guys want to bring in each department, a couple departments specifically? How are you guys feeling?
Maybe I would say probably start with the ones that have FY22 projects. Like Council on Aging, their project isn't until 24. I think everyone else has something in 22.
Right. It would be interesting to have, there were some questions I had for the police and for the library. Some of the statements she made at the library, she'd rather use capital money and free cash instead of taking it out of their building budget, which I don't agree with.
Yeah, the library was a big number for me too, especially if the goal is to keep personnel costs down. But that's such a significant number. What would personnel actually cost?
I don't know, but I just know it that if it was budgeted within their building budget, they should use it
Okay.
instead
So
of taking away from capital, other projects. That's just my opinion, but
we'll bring in library, police. I did have a question for DPW. We'll bring them in. Anybody else?
Did we hear from the schools?
I have not, but I have their capital plan from last year, so I was gonna kind of, I don't know.
they didn't submit anything
They
in
didn't.
this packet.
Nope. So Carter did reach out to Jay. He has the new request forms. I think he's been working on the train plan.
Yep.
And he doesn't have newly filled out request forms with the new forms. So I just had a quick conversation with Laura before this meeting to talk about, how we get the data from the schools. And I don't want to speak on the school committee or the superintendent's behalf, but I think since we've got such a short period of time to work with, I would propose that we make the assumption that train is not going to be approved for this fiscal year. I think that's a reasonable assumption, although I think that's what they want. So one way to do it would be to give them the amount of money that they'd be seeking with train. And if the contract gets signed, then we authorize them to go ahead and spend that money. Otherwise, they would use it for the things that train would, be taken care of, or something substantially similar is one way to do it. But that's not the only, obviously, that's not the only requests that they have. So I think it's probably best for this committee to just go off of their existing capital plan.
I just want to make sure that we have the right information, that we know which projects they still want. There might be things in there that they don't need now.
So maybe that's the meeting with the schools to just pull out of the existing plan, the stuff that was proposed for FY22 and say, is this still valid?
Yeah.
Because there might have been some stuff under train that doesn't need to be on their list anymore,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think train, that whole proposal needs a lot more vetting. And we've got a couple of weeks to work. So I think we have to kind of chuck out train for right now and just go on their existing capital plan. And presumably a lot of what's in train's, plan would be aligned with what their priorities are. I'm not sure how else to proceed.
I just have a question, Matt. How is train's contract? They have one with them now. So if we don't do anything for 22, what do they do? Are they don't continue working with the school anymore, or
Which contract are you talking about?
talk about train? Don't they have they still have a contract with train? It must expire sometime. I mean, I'm depending upon this project to be approved, so. And if we don't do it this year, are they willing to stay on and work with the school for next year?
Yeah, they indicated that they would understood the complexities of funding in the municipal environment, and basically said they really want to start this year, but if they can't start this year, then they're basically ready to go whenever we can sign the contract. So there may be some complexities. I don't know how to address the train issue, because here's the thing, train's going to want to take care of, I would imagine, some of the things that make them money, right? So if we take some of those things out of the list, because we're going to deliver them out of the capital plan this year. That might impact the negotiations, but I can't really speak to that. So
Okay.
I'm just thinking about, us as an advisory committee, what can we do over the next couple of weeks to deliver to Carter? Because this stuff's due on the 1st of December. So I think we just have to go with what we have. And then Carter's going to have to kind of carry the ball from there. And we'll understand the train situation much better over the coming months. I don't think that the train contract is something that's going to be able to be executed probably before Carter delivers his capital budget to the town. So
Yeah, I thought, and I guess I thought it was understood that we weren't going to be looking at that as part of this process. At least that was my assumption.
yeah, so then what we have to go with is the current capital plan that the school has. So I'd propose that we just move forward with using their plan, and we put the projects in that are, allocated for FY22, and just validate with them that this is actually what, they want, to
You
put into FY.
As the school committee rep, do you want me to reach out to Jay and validate that
That'd be good.
before
Yeah, I think that would be great.
I'm happy to do that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
And I don't think we need them transcribed onto the form, given the time frame we have here. I mean,
And I had
we
said-
didn't even have all of them in the packets were that way. So I
Right.
say, given time crunch, whatever form they have, we look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it was in last year's budget book, so it's something it's all there, and their capital plan is pretty good, so it has most of the information that we need.
Yeah, they just use their capital plan they've had in a book for this year.
Yeah.
And just tell us what their top priorities are.
Colleen, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry,
Still can't hear you.
Colleen's muted.
can't hear you.
But she's not.
Actually, she's not
but
muted.
We can't hear.
She's gonna come back. Matt often is the host now.
Apparently. Yay.
Power.
Phenomenal.
Quick, let's make a decision.
Get back, tell her it's all done.
We're gonna switch it to the Grafton Lakers. How's that? It's fun watching people lose their minds.
Yeah,
Finance committee is going to be meeting, I'll wait for Colleen to come back. But finance committee is going to be meeting with Carter because he wants input from finance committee on the budget that he's put together. And one of the things that I would like to ask him, because I see the police department has for capital 2 cars again and their
Yep.
equipment to go with them. And so I know we wanted to continue keeping the cars in the budget, the operating budget. So that's one of the things I want to find out.
Yep. I really liked the way that he talked about it. I don't even know when it was, but that sort of 2 options. Either it's part of the operational budget or it's first on the list as a permanent part of the capital program. So, yeah. What's up, Colleen?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
We're good.
You work for Verizon, huh?
Sometimes, I guess. Oh, did it die again? Okay, good. Okay, so let me just go through the departments we do have. So Amy's gonna touch base with the schools. And can we just focus on the FY22? Because I know in the past when I've gone through even just the 5-year plan from a 1-year difference, it was drastically different for the schools because they do figure out ways to get projects done with the means they have sometimes, and their needs change. So I would just hate to make any assumptions for them. The building department, did anybody want to talk about the service counters? Is that pretty straightforward for everyone? Okay. We're gonna ask DPW in the fire department. Did anybody want to talk to Chief Gothier at all, or does that seem pretty straightforward as well?
I think Sue was just saying while you were off. She had questions about the police thing.
The police, okay. So we have,
Oh, you said fire. I'm sorry.
yep.
Fire.
Because I know library, police, and DPW were for sure. I was just gonna hit all of the other ones, and you're checking. Oh, recreation. So the other thing was there was only a handful that I saw that were urgent or legally required, and recreation was one of them. which I think will trigger it to float higher. And I just wanted to know, what is it legally required or urgent kind of a thing? So I don't know if that.
Looks urgent.
Okay.
So police has only 2 things on the plan for this fiscal year, and that was the new cruisers and the receiver in South Grafton. And Sue said she was going to talk to Carter at the FinCom meeting about whether those are going to be rolled into the operating budget for this coming year, as has been previously discussed.
And the radio receiver said it was going to possibly have a grant, but it didn't list the amount. So I'd love to know what that would be. That was the meat for the police, was what were the grants amount? Because they identified possible grants on some projects, but didn't really identify an amount.
He usually does. Maybe he didn't know maybe he forgot to put it in.
Right. Or it hasn't been announced yet, or I don't know.
Maybe.
How about the planning department? Did we want to bring them in to talk about the master plan a little bit, or?
Which one was that?
So they have that marked as urgent and legally required, and a phased out over 3 years, totaling $100,000. But I think the first year hit was
30,000.
30,000. Okay.
30, 50, 20.
Yep. So just to
Yeah, I'd like to hear what he has to say. Why is that so legally required? I mean, they've been working with this master plan that was been developed and we've had for a long time, so.
I think there's a requirement to get it one every 10 years. So it's horribly out of date at this point.
Well, it is. And it's been put off because I know a couple of years ago.
And I think it impacts your grant opportunities if you don't have a current master plan.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so tomorrow I'll reach out to library, police, DPW, and planning and see about trying to get them in. We're meeting again on Wednesday. We should really talk about, I know I'm jumping around on the agenda a little bit, but talk about when we're meeting for the rest of the month. I know Wednesdays are a little difficult for Matt. I also know next week, because we share this Zoom account with the TA search committee as well as finance committee, that next Wednesday and Thursday are unavailable on this account. And I know Matt and I are unavailable on Tuesday. So it's really leaving us with Monday and Friday next week. How does everybody feel about that?
And we have 22 days to finish this.
Right.
I could do Monday, Friday.
Okay.
I can do Monday, and if we have to do Friday, I can.
Looks the same here.
If I can try to get people in on Wednesday, but again, that's Veterans Day, so a lot of people might, I don't know, maybe we'll have an answer from the schools by then and we can at least talk about that on Wednesday. I would just hate to have a missed opportunity to talk about something, but we're also kind of in this sticky mode right now where we can't. But if not, we'll do the 16th, and then on the 16th we'll talk about it. And that gives me enough time to post, Tuesday for Friday if that works out too.
Yeah.
So we'll just play it by ear like that. Okay.
So we're not going to meet this Wednesday, the 11th.
No, I think we still are. I'm hoping that we have some information from the schools by then. We just probably won't have department heads by then, but it'll still give us something more to address and talk about and feel out. Maybe Greg will have a better sense of the score sheets per your request to have just FY22 on it, something like that. Give me a chance to pick apart the school plan that I actually have, which is from 2018. It's the capital plan from FY20 to 24. So that's probably horribly outdated, but, and then the other ones that are online. I just have this like really big printed out one with all the pictures. It's beautiful. And I don't know why I have it, but I have it. So I pulled it down.
I mean, Colleen, one or two of the department heads in on the 11th. I mean, all their stuff is printed and all they have to do is answer questions. I
agree, but it's Veterans Day, so I just don't know if people view that as some kind of a, so I'll give them the space to say no, but I'll ask for sure.
All right, I forgot it was Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also did reach out to Mr. Canoyer about meeting up with him over the weekend. For me personally, having pictures of the fleet would be really helpful of what all of the trucks and mowers and, miscellaneous machinery, what a track list is, things like that, to really help for me when I go to score something to say, oh yeah, look at that. That's a ton of rust and $20,000 is going to get us 10 more years. Yeah, absolutely. Or I don't know. I don't see that much rust. You know what I mean? Something like that. I'm visual.
Pictures aren't going to do it either. I think you should meet with Paul and go through the garage and see them.
Oh, I'm going to. No, I'm going to go. I'm going to take the pictures, but I'm going to see it all for sure. Yeah.
Because pictures aren't really going to show those. They're rust buckets, a couple of them. I went to touch it and Paul said, don't touch it, don't fall off. So they're pretty bad, but you get a better idea personally down there. And I don't know if pictures are going to show what you think they're going to show, but anyway, anybody can go down as long as you let them know ahead of time.
But even like the 0-turn mowers for me, that was confusing because there was 2 requests for them, and on each request it was for 2. So how many do we have? Do we have 2? Do we need 4? Where are we going with this? And then
You didn't give the inventory list. I didn't look to see.
Yeah, there were 2 scheduled for replacement in 2024, I think, and they are different model years. So we currently have at least 2. So I don't know if they were planning for 2 now and then 2 again in 3 years. If they're planning a 3-year lifespan, or if there are actually 4.
so for me, that was curious too, because if we're doing that and we're replacing both in the same year, can we stretch one a little longer? So we're replacing one and then the next one the following year and then a year off and then one and a year off instead of a big hit every 3 years, kind of spread it out a little is my thinking on that, but I don't know.
Yep,
That's
makes
why we
sense.
need- that's why we need Paul in to answer those questions.
I mean, most of that equipment has hour counters on it so that you know how much it's been run.
Yep. Also, there was a note that said from mowing subdivisions. What are they doing in subdivisions? Do
I
I
was
need
wondering about that
to
too.
move so they mow my lawn? That'd be nice.
Oh,
Is
actually,
it
they
got
have
the sidewalks though? I don't.
that
No.
could be sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah, there are actually 5 on the one this year for 12,000.
Yep.
And then 2 in 2023 and 2 in 2026 for 30,000 each. So one is much more expensive than the others. That'd be interesting to see what that is.
And then how do they do when they're replacing the trucks? Are they auctioning the old ones? Does it go into the trade-in value for the prices they're giving us? Like, I would like to have some clarity on that too. But those are my questions for him.
You trade in rust, but
For parts, you'd be surprised. People might strip stuff down and do
some
great.
of those trucks have had so many parts used on them. I know from past experience from what Paul has said about the trucks, but I don't know. We'd have to find. They usually look at the state bids to get their trucks too. So they usually keep a decent deal.
If you bought it from a bid, you probably couldn't trade it in. You'd have to auction it off at that point, right? Does that make sense?
I don't know if that's how the state does it.
All right. Does anybody else have anything to talk about from what they've seen so far?
That barn that they're talking about on Adams Road on Conservation,
Mm-hmm.
that's cinder block.
Yep.
How is that dilapidating? Is the cinder mortar coming off, or I don't know. Every
Looks-
time I go past that building, it looks pretty solid to me, but
Yeah. It's tough to say. Doesn't look like anything's happened there for years.
it hasn't ever since Tennessee property is sold. They've been using it for storage. The recreation department used to put picnic tables and everything in there for the winter. I don't know if they still do that, but the barn looks I mean, it's all cinder block. I don't know why it's ready to collapse.
And they also have 500 of CPA funds going towards it, which I thought was an interesting amount.
Yep.
That was the amount that was listed under land acquisition.
Okay. So maybe I'll touch base with conservation too to see if they want to come in and answer a couple questions as well. Okay. Well, we reviewed the capital plan. As far as scoring goes, once we do have everything in there, are we going to score it 1 to 5, 1 being a very high priority for that person and 5 being least priority? Does that make sense to everybody? Or 1 to 3, or what are you guys thinking?
1 to 5 makes sense. Gives you enough range.
Okay.
So we're
Um,
looking, 1 is high or 5 is high?
1. Wait.
I would think 5 would be high.
That was my thought as well.
I think so too.
Okay.
We also have to agree on the weighting factors. So
Yep.
that's an important part of the scoring process.
Should that be considered before or after we put in our scores?
I'd like to get it in before.
You would? Okay.
So maybe on Wednesday if Jeremy's.
I think it makes sense, yeah, to do it before if we can. That way, as you're when you're done, you can get a sense of whether your priorities make sense when you look at your own results.
Okay. Do you want me to pull up the screen again so you guys can look at that? Maybe.
So how are we rating these?
Greg, you shared the spreadsheet with read only, so you're gonna have to move it to the folder.
You should be able to just make a copy into that folder.
Let me see if I could do that. Make a copy. Into,
So you want us to weigh all these things first and then rank them.
Yes.
Is that right?
I think we're going to talk about that right now. So this is what we're going to be weighting right now. The public safety, infrastructure, efficiency, mandatory, legally required, or impact on service and personnel. So those are right from the
Right.
guide. So I guess, how do you guys feel about that? Or are you editing that, Matt?
what?
Anything? Are you touching the screen?
I just fixed safety. I'll fix it
You
again.
did. Okay, I'm like, I didn't do that. I'm sharing my screen, but I didn't do that. Okay. So obviously, if it's legally required, that should have a pretty high weight. Does everybody agree with that?
Right.
Yeah.
And are the weighting factors also going to be 1 through 5, or should that be less?
We can kind of figure that one out. I mean, 5 does seem like a pretty reasonable high end for that as well.
Yep.
I think that's how they've done it in the past. So I just copied that to the shared folder. So thank you, Greg, for that.
You're
Do we want to just put in the weighting factors right now while we're all here?
Yeah.
Okay.
well, except Jeremy.
We might as well take a
Or Wednesday.
stab at it.
I think so. We're here.
Okay.
Are you still have your screen up, Greg, to do it, or should I?
I will make the changes because it's not on this sheet. It's on a different sheet. So they'll be reflected here when I change them.
I'll
And I'll make them in the other one later.
Okay.
I'll make them in the other one as we do.
Okay. Okay. So do we want to go with a 5 for the mandatory legal?
I
Yes,
think
please.
so.
Thinking public safety and health is going to be pretty high as well.
Yep.
Maybe 4.
Or if we're just gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
I don't
mean-
think we don't have to do it that way. I think if impact on service and personnel could be another, 4.
Or we could do 3.5, like any number is valid
Yeah.
in range. It could be an average of all of our decisions as well.
That's why I thought the weighting factors were slightly less, like on a 1 to 3 kind of scale. So you could do 1, 1.5, 2, 3 3/4, whatever you were thinking, instead of, so we don't end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't know. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, I think public safety, you're right, should be significantly higher. So throw it at 4. And then efficiency and infrastructure, those are important. I don't know, they're all important to me, so I don't think I'm good at weighting things.
Well, these are so they all mingle. I mean, there are none of them that stand alone for any project. I mean, they're separate. It's like cutting them really close to defining them as separate things. Efficiency could be right there with public health and safety.
Well,
Right.
if my thought was
Yeah.
that
Splitting hairs.
the legal requirements are the most important, followed by public safety and health, and that the other 3 for me are equal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. I think we need to give things that are mandatory for legal reasons and things that impact public safety and health a little bit of a boost. Because a lot of times those things are not the sexy big ticket items that people are excited about. And some of those things tend to get left behind. So things like infrastructure efficiency and impact on service and personnel, to me, in my mind, I'm looking at it, they're equal as far as I'm concerned. But
I think that's what I was trying to say. It's like splitting
Yeah.
hairs. They're all so close together.
yeah, I mean, unless our priority as a committee is to put efficiency above impact on service and infrastructure. I mean, that could be the committee's desire, but to me, they're all equally important. So,
And I think that's the fun part about the ability to tweak these, because, after we've done this for a few years, maybe there is a year where efficiency is the year. Like, we want to make everything as efficient as possible, and we give that a really high rating.
Yep.
So if it's gonna be 5, 4, and 1, maybe make it 3, 2, and 1. And have 1 be those 3 across, like you were saying, and then we'll just see how it shakes out and tweak them after that.
Maybe 3, 2.5.
Okay, yeah, that works too.
So what are we doing?
So mandatory and legal will be 3, public safety and health will be 2.5, and the remaining 3 will all be 1, because they, like Amy was saying, they all seem equally important. So we've just elevated the 2 that, for obvious reasons, should be elevated, and we'll just see how it shakes out and then tweak them after that if need be.
All right, so we're going 2.5 and then 1, 1, 3, and 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And those
I
are on
would,
the score entry tab, right? Score entry worksheet.
that is on the, I was putting on compiled results.
Okay, needs to go in score entry.
All right, let me undo those. They're
But
undone.
mandatory is 3 though, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I had
So
one,
let's say, for example, I'm filling. Oops, sorry.
I just had one question on that, which is, if we include things like ADA compliance,
That's kind of
uh,
mandatory.
it is mandatory, but I would put that in my way of thinking is that that's a little bit lower than fire and police. Although it's required, I would always sort of put public safety
Right.
first. and then compliance, because there's lots of compliance stuff that's, although it's mandatory, the impact to the community from failing compliance things is less than underfunding public safety and health, to me.
So the service counter, can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so the service counters are kind of an example of that, right? That's to bring us to ADA compliance, is my
Yep.
understanding. So that's a perfect right across the top. So, I mean, I think that's another funny thing. If you know what the weighting is beforehand, you might not give things the score you think you should because you know it's going to get I don't know. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Yep.
So that's the, like, one thing I'm not sure that having these counters is ADA required. I think all it's saying is here is that the counter design meets ADA requirements. So we don't have to put them in, but because we are putting them in, they have to be ADA compliant.
Okay.
So that one would fall for me under high for public safety and health, but not mandatory legal. Mandatory legal is things like the state says you must do this year. Period. End of story.
That's not quite, well, it is for some things, Greg, but when you have a building though, and you have to be ADA compliant, it's mandatory because the bathrooms have to be such a certain width,
Yeah.
showers a certain width. So there are mandatory requirements for some things.
There are, and we've done a self-evaluation process, which has a very detailed document which describes where we're out of compliance. So
Yep.
I hear what you're saying, where the state didn't say you have to do this within a year. So from that standpoint, I don't know, it's arguable whether that's mandatory or not, but we do have to actually change all of those things on that self-evaluation.
So I guess my question then was, is it that we have to change these things, or because these things are changing, they have to follow ADA? It's like, does the state say you must change this to meet ADA requirements right now, or because we are looking to put in service counters, the service counters must meet ADA? So it's the thing of, because you're doing renovation, you have to come into compliance with ADA,
Yes.
versus you must do this now because of some other thing which has already triggered.
So I think they're both true in the sense that we have to do these things, but we don't have to do them now. If we do them now, they have to be ADA compliant.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're renovating, so One Grafton Common ran into that, right?
Yeah.
They did a substantial enough renovation that they had to make the entire thing ADA compliant. That's not our situation. So we're still out of compliance. We still have to do these things, but it's not mandatory that we do them now.
And that was like the DPW building, the old one, when it was renovated. It had to be, when they renovated, they had to do the ADA compliant things during the renovation.
Right.
It wasn't something that, I mean, when it happens, you have to do it. I mean, you can put it off, but
So
you have
I
to
think
follow.
all of us are getting the sense that we just need to kind of fill this out and see how it works out. So I'm not going to argue too hard for the public safety to be the top score, but if we're thinking about police cars as guaranteed, that might be another kind of argument for that. Is that public safety, the fire department stuff, the police stuff, that has to be guaranteed to happen on that schedule, because we can't fall down in that regard. But I'm going to leave it as mandatory legal as 3, and then 2.5 for public safety and health, and then 1 for each of the others, and we'll see how it works out.
Okay. Now, if you wanted to do 5 across for a project, are you allowed to do that, or you're only allowed to pick 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1?
Say that.
So let's say, I really love service counters and I'm like, yes, service counters. And I give them 5 for everything. Is that allowed?
I think so.
Or am I only allowed 1 5 out of those 5? Just so that we're all using the same metric when we're going to score these.
I wouldn't say that you'd have to use the numbers 1 through 5 one time each or anything like that.
I agree.
That would artificially increase the score of some projects. Potentially.
Giving
Yep.
it facts if you don't even believe. Okay. Yep.
And also just in talking through this with Peter, he said that sometimes members didn't have an opinion, or so the members don't have to necessarily score every single one if they don't want to. If there's one that you're just confused about or don't really know enough about or whatever, it's allowed to just leave it blank.
Right. So like the cruisers are a good example too. That doesn't do infrastructure necessarily, right? That's equipment. So would that just be a 0?
A 0 for infrastructure? I mean, it's public safety for sure.
Public safety.
But that has its own column, so that would be its own score. So how would you score equipment weighting factor when it's being infrastructure is the category?
The equipment that goes in the car.
I would say that vehicle fleets is part of our infrastructure. So I wouldn't say that it's a physical asset that helps deliver a service. So to me, that's infrastructure. I
Okay.
wouldn't say that that's probably a 5 and in the way that a building is maybe. But I would say that there is an aspect to that. Efficiency might also, if we think about the efficiency of the police force,
Right.
if they have a more up-to-date, so I think, yeah, all of this is going to be subject for discussion. Can't wait to see how everybody does this.
I know, because I'm thinking of the cruisers and the equipment he's asking for, they can't operate the cruisers without it.
Right.
That's all the equipment that has to go in the cruisers in order to make them viable.
And there's an impact on personnel as well, right?
Right.
I feel woefully unprepared for this entire exercise only because I know a lot about the school's requests, but I don't understand really anything about, the police and DPW and stuff. So I'll be doing a lot of listening and not a lot of talking. with
Well,
that.
and I think maybe that's a good reason that like if you don't feel comfortable or in a certain area, maybe just leave it blank. If you don't feel like you have a strong reference to give it scores, then I think it's okay. Some of the stuff I must admit, I was a little bit overwhelmed by the capital package and all of the detail that came with it. There is a lot of technical specs and it's a lot to get through. So
Well, and we're only going to have one more member, right? It's just Jeremy, right?
Yeah, I don't think we'll have our 7th by the time this is due.
So I
Yeah,
should
there's no chance of that.
try to
It'd be at least-
understand.
It'd be at least 3 weeks before someone new could be appointed, and that's the day that the booklet is due.
That's why the department heads come in, so you can ask them all those questions. And
Right.
trust me, when somebody asks for something from the department, and when they would come in, when we would meet with them. find
Yeah,
out
no, I'll be listening for your questions.
When we would meet with them, and they would say, and I'd say, what is that? You have to explain to me what that is before you tell me. I
Okay.
want to know the function and what it is. So
Well, I don't feel so bad now.
that's why you have to ask
'Cause
questions.
I know Colleen knows trucks, and I know you know a lot, Sue, and I know Matt knows a lot, and of course Greg knows a lot. I'm just feeling a little
You'll
lost
learn
right
a lot.
now.
By the time you get through with capital planning, you will know everything.
I want to see that building. Maybe I might go look at it and see.
Oh.
I don't even know what it is.
The new DPW?
No. The 40 is it 46 Adams?
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Building?
I have no idea what that is. I'm like, oh, there's a barn there.
Yeah, it is. It's cement cinder block, but
Okay.
it looks like a 1950s rec center.
yeah, it does.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
that doesn't look like a barn at all. That's why.
yeah, it does not look like a barn.
that's why, and they've been using it as storage for many years, recreation department is. But what I liked about that barn is the people who owned all that land had peacocks. So when you'd go by, the peacocks, sometimes you'd see them with their tails wide open. It was kind of cool. It was a cool barn.
So, and the peacocks are gone now?
They're gone. When the land went, they went. So
Sad.
I'm looking at it on Street View now. It has like no windows, needs a new roof. The roof gables are shot, so.
Maybe that's, they can't use it to store anything because it's not watertight.
Yeah, it looks like the block part might be okay,
Put
but
up?
the rest of it is
it's
a
in
mess.
your-
Are
yeah,
you using a different computer to do that, Greg?
I'm on the one I'm taking minutes on, not the one I'm on Zoom on, so
Oh.
no, I can't share it.
you'll find it. They take pictures of it. Yeah, just go by. I mean,
Alright.
you can stop and walk around too.
Okay. I'll take a
So,
look before it snows.
yeah, I would.
Do you guys want to score what we have so far before we get school so that we have something to talk about on Wednesday? If we don't have any department heads in, we'll have an example of what it looks like with half of the requests. Because I imagine the schools will be another half that we just don't have.
I just don't know that I'm ready to score it before I talk to anybody.
Yeah, I don't want to score unless I know what the school department has for their capital, because then I would have to unscore everything if I should decide that something else should be scored differently. So I would just soon wait.
Yeah, and talk to the people proposing it first. So I don't know that we have enough information to
Okay.
score yet.
Well, that sounds good too. Okay, so I think that's it for tonight, just the meeting minutes. Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss before we get to meeting minutes?
Did we set meetings for both Monday and Friday of next week?
We only set a meeting for Monday. We're gonna see how it goes. And then if we want to do one on Friday, depending on everybody's schedules, look, I have time to get one posted Tuesday for Friday.
So we should save the time, but if we can, hold on to it.
Right.
I
Okay.
just have to say Jeremy did a very good job defending the CIPC.
Greg did too. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Greg was up so many times for so many articles. I was so impressed, but he was very, well, Greg is always good. So
He had notes and everything. It was fantastic.
I know. So, but Jeremy, I did a really good job, I thought too, considering he was always a little nervous about things. So,
It was really nice that the community were talking about it and it
Yep.
wasn't the select board trying to push an idea. It was really good. I liked it.
I was waiting for your little video. You never did it, did you?
There was no way to show it.
We
Yeah,
sure did. We just didn't get posted on the town meeting. It's on Facebook.
That's true.
Really? How did I miss it?
Oh, that one? Yeah, I saw that. I saw that one.
Posted it under what?
It's on me and Matt's pages, but it never got shared to like a group.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Ooh. Somebody, you should have shared it to a group. I didn't.
I
see
was
it.
waiting for somebody. I was waiting for either Matt or Colleen to share it. I didn't want to steal their thunder.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing. I wouldn't have shared it because I would have thought they would have done it first.
Well, next
It
time
would,
we'll know.
it wouldn't have prevented a single question at town meeting.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Challenged, but
One other thing I wanted to mention about schools specifically, Amy, for you is Doreen found some green communities money, green communities money, I think, that could possibly be applied to some of the school projects. So I'll try to send that to you for your discussion with Jay to see if that helps his decision making at all.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, if we can take a motion for the meeting minutes.
what were the date of those that we approved the minutes from
October 28th.
October 28th is presented?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Matt,
Often I.
Greg,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Colleen, I, and I'm sorry I didn't ask for discussion. I just kind of steamrolled you all. Okay, and there's nothing else to talk about. We can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Matt,
Often I.
Sue,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and Colleen, I. Have a good night, everybody.